Jeff Bezos just sold $5.7 billion in Amazon stock, all for his honeymoon. In the summer of 2025, the internet put two and two together and got a multi-billion-dollar honeymoon. On one hand, you had the paparazzi-fueled rumors of Jeff Bezos' lavish Venetian wedding, an event that screamed opulence. On the other hand, a quiet series of financial filings revealed something even more staggering. Bezos was cashing out billions of dollars in Amazon stock. Naturally, social media exploded. The headlines practically wrote themselves, all asking the same wild question. Did Jeff Bezos, one of the richest people in history, really just sell a fortune? With total sales wrapping up in July at a mind-blowing $5.7 billion to pay for a wedding party. It's a juicy story, right? It plays into everything we imagine about the lives of the ultra-rich. But the truth is way more calculated, and honestly, a lot more interesting. It's not a story about extravagant spending. It's a story about a sophisticated financial machine working behind the scenes. We're talking about clever legal tools, huge philanthropic goals, and a tax strategy so brilliant it saved him over $1 billion. The real reason for the sale has almost nothing to do with a honeymoon and everything to do with a master plan. So, let's pull back the curtain and uncover what's really going on. The myth, a wedding present to himself. To get why the honeymoon theory took off, you have to appreciate the sheer spectacle of it all. When a guy like Jeff Bezos gets married, it's not a private affair. It's a global media event. The story is just too good. You can just picture it. Private jets landing in Venice, A-list celebs cruising down historic canals, and parties in ancient palaces. Nobody confirmed the price tag, but the public's imagination put it well north of $50 million. Then, right in the middle of all this buzz, the financial news dropped. SEC filings showed that on July 21st and 22nd, 2025, Jeff Bezos sold 6.6 million shares of Amazon, pocketing a cool $1.5 billion. And this wasn't a one-off. It was part of a larger wave of selling that brought his total since late June to that jaw-dropping $5.7 billion. Zoom out even further, and you see that throughout 2024 and 2025, he cashed out a staggering $18.2 billion of his Amazon stock. The timing just felt too perfect to be a coincidence. For most of us, selling stock is tied to a big life expense, a down payment on a house, maybe college tuition. So when people saw the biggest personal event in Bezos' life lining up with one of his biggest paydays, the conclusion felt obvious. He was cashing out to pay for the party. Let's just stop and appreciate the scale here, because it's insane. Forget the rumored $50 million wedding. The nearly $5.7 billion he cashed out is more than the GDP of dozens of countries. With that kind of money, you could buy a fleet of private jets, a handful of private islands, or fund a Hollywood blockbuster dozens of times over. The sheer absurdity of the number is what made the story so powerful. It fed the narrative of billionaire excess, where selling $1 billion is like a regular person swiping their credit card on vacation. But that simple story overlooks the fact that for a founder and executive chairman like Bezos, selling stock isn't like logging into an E-Trade account. It's a complex legal dance. And that's where the whole honeymoon myth falls apart. What if the timing wasn't a clue, but a total red herring? What if the real story was hiding in plain sight, inside a boring legal document? The reveal, the automated selling machine. That entire honeymoon funding theory, as fun as it is, gets completely debunked by one crucial detail. A bit of financial jargon called a Rule 10b-5-1 trading plan. It sounds boring, I know, but understanding it is the key that unlocks this whole mystery. Let's start with the problem it solves. If you're the founder of a company like Amazon, you're the ultimate insider. You know about sales trends before they are announced. You know about secret projects. You know everything. That's called material non-public information. If you trade stock based on that info, say, dumping shares because you know a bad earnings report is coming, that's insider trading. It's super illegal. This creates a catch-22 for executives. How do you ever sell your own stock without being accused of cheating? Your wealth is tied up in the company, but you're blocked from touching it. The 10b-5-1 plan is the perfectly legal solution. Think of it like setting up an auto-pay for your mortgage. You don't decide each month when to pay it. You set the rule once, and it just happens. A 10b-5-1 plan does the same thing for selling stock. An insider like Bezos sits down with his lawyers months in advance, at a time when he doesn't have any secret info, and creates a written plan for future sales. The plan can set rules based on dates, prices, or volume. For example, sell 1 million shares on the 1st of every month, or sell 500,000 shares anytime the price hits $200. Once that plan is filed with the SEC, it's locked in. A broker executes the trades automatically, and the insider can't touch it. This gives them a rock-solid defense against insider trading accusations. If regulators ask why you sold stock right before a big announcement, you can point to the plan you made 6 months ago, proving the decision was pre-scheduled. And that's exactly what happened here. The SEC filings clearly state that Bezos' sales in July 2025 were made under a 10b5-1 plan he adopted much earlier. This plan reportedly allows him to sell a set number of shares before May 2026. So the sales that happened around his wedding weren't a spontaneous decision. They were a pre-programmed financial instruction, just doing its thing. The timing was, legally and practically, a coincidence. And just like that, the mystery's solved. It wasn't about a wedding. It was about following a script. Which brings us to the real question. If not for the party, why sell not just $1.5 billion, but over $18 billion in the last couple of years? The answer is a masterclass in how the ultra-wealthy play the game. The deeper truth, the real drivers of the sale. With the honeymoon myth out of the way, we can see the 3 real reasons for these massive sales: philanthropy, tax strategy, and diversification. This isn't just about cashing out. It's about moving capital on a scale that can change the world. First, let's talk about the masterclass in tax strategy. In late 2023, Bezos announced he was moving from Seattle, Washington, to Miami, Florida. He said it was to be closer to his parents and his space company, Blue Origin. But the financial reason is staggering. Washington State has a 7% tax on capital gains over $250,000. Florida has 0. Let's do some quick math. On the $18.2 billion in stock he's sold since early 2024, a 7% tax in Washington would have cost him around $1.27 billion. By moving to Florida before initiating these sales, he legally avoided that entire state tax bill. The money he saved on taxes is more than 20 times the most outlandish estimates for his wedding. This wasn't just a move. It was a calculated financial strategy that likely dictated the timing of everything. That tax saving frees up over $1 billion that can now be used for his other goals, the biggest of which is philanthropy. Bezos has pledged to give away most of his fortune. But that fortune isn't cash, it's Amazon stock. To fund anything, he has to sell. His 2 main projects are the Bezos Earth Fund and the Day One Fund. The Earth Fund is a $10 billion commitment to fight climate change, while the Day One Fund focuses on homelessness and education. These aren't just promises. They need billions in cash every year. As of mid-2025, the Earth Fund has already granted over $2.3 billion but still has $7.7 billion left to deploy. These stock sales are the engine that powers those grants. He also donates stock directly to nonprofits, a brilliant move, because the nonprofit can sell it without paying the capital gains taxes he would have, meaning more money goes directly to the cause. Finally, there's the classic strategy of diversification. Even for Amazon, it's just smart investing not to have all your eggs in one basket. Bezos has been strategically selling shares for years to fund his other ventures. The most famous is Blue Origin, his private space company. Competing with SpaceX costs a fortune, and for years, Bezos has reportedly funded it by selling about $1 billion of Amazon stock annually. These planned sales are literally the fuel for his rockets. So, when you put it all together, the picture is crystal clear. The sale wasn't a whim. It was a premeditated move to legally sidestep over $1 billion in taxes, freeing up more capital to pour into his world-changing philanthropic pledges and his passion for space exploration. Conclusion. So, we started with a sensational headline: Bezos sells billions for a honeymoon. It's a simple, dramatic story that's easy to believe. But the reality is so much more complex. The honeymoon myth was just that, a myth busted by a single legal tool, the 10b5-1 trading plan, which proved the sales were scheduled months in advance. The deeper truth reveals a financial strategy of incredible sophistication. These sales aren't for personal splurging. They are for transformation. They are about converting corporate wealth into fuel for the Bezos Earth Fund to tackle climate change. They are about a brilliant tax move to Florida that saved him over $1 billion, money that can now fund other projects. And they are about funding his other dream, reaching the stars with Blue Origin. It shows that when we see a headline about a billionaire selling stock, the real story is almost never about impulse. It's about a long-term, calculated plan where every move is designed for maximum strategic impact. It leaves us with a pretty interesting question. Is this just smart financial planning on a massive scale? Or does it show that the ultra-wealthy are playing a completely different game, with rules that allow them to reshape the world in ways the rest of us can barely imagine? Let me know what you think down in the comments.